Hi everyone, I'm going to make a mini album here today. We've got this acrylic back and front cover with the rings to bind it all together, and I've got this from the Stamp Spot here in Australia, and I've had it for a little while and didn't know what I wanted to make with it, so I'm just going to measure it here so I can cut my pages to the full length. And I figured when I got this kit with all these beautiful colours that it'd be nice to cut up the pages and make this album, add in some texture, even some mixed media, and then fill it with photos and embellishments. So the next video, probably even 2 videos, I will fill it with photos and embellish it, and that will be what happens with this album. So I've cut down all my papers to that 5.5 by 9.1 inch. I'm not sure if that's even how you say the measurement, but that's what it was on my measuring thing on my trimmer. And I'm just going to now line it up and measure to hole punch all the holes. Now there is some offcuts because I cut the 12 by 12 papers down to 5.5 and then I cut it down to that 9.1. So I have these little strips at the top, you can see, of the top of the screen right now, and I want to use them so that I can have a little bit of small pages in between. So pretty much this album is just a crazy mishmash of goodness and brightness and whatnot. So you can see here I'm just lining them up so that those little pages will go into the rings so that they're not lost in the binding. I guess it's not really called the binding. I guess it's more like the spine or something, but you know, like, we need to make sure that they're on the rings. So starting off punching this paper with this notebook border punch. I use my punches, I use some ribbon, we got some twine and some pom-pom trim in the kit, and and some normal ribbon. Did I already say ribbon? And I do some mixed media. So I'm just having a little play with the positioning of the paper. I do cut some white paper so that there's some white in there to break up all this pattern. And I'm just having a play to work out what's going to go next to each other when you flip the pages, that it looks all right and that the colours are going and the patterns aren't right next to each other. Except for one, which I did want the pattern next to each other. Actually, I don't do that now. So you can see I've got double of every paper because 12 by 12, obviously cutting it to 5.5 wide means that I can get 2 from each paper, and some of the white paper I've already said. So just putting all these big pieces together, and then I do have a little play with putting in the smaller pieces to see where I want. Obviously that paper there, I cut the first 2 or 3. I thought it said, even though I wrote the measurement down, I thought it was 5, so I cut a few papers 5, and then for some reason all of a sudden it popped in my head like, hey, it wasn't 5, was it? And so the others are 5.5, but that's okay because I'm adding some ribbon to the sides, I'm punching some shapes, some edges and whatnot. So it's all going to be all different and lots of texture when you look at the spine, or actually the opening or the other side. What's the other side of a book called? One, the middle, like the spine, and then the opposite is what? Let me know down below. I'm curious to know now. So you can see I just added one of the smaller pieces and I made a scalloped edge on the bottom side of it. I'm just seeing if there's any more to go. Wow, here comes the rain that the weatherman has forecasted for the last 3 days. Thank goodness. So some of them I kept on the strip here with that little branding strip because the colours went really nice. Others I chopped off. I'm just having a play. I'm sorry that not sorry. I kept in this flipping through the pages because I wanted you to see how it looks and how, like, what my process was. So you can see there, I put it in there and then I was like, nah, maybe there's a better spot, and I yank it out and put it, and then I'm like, nope, I don't want it, I don't know where it goes now, put it to the top, and when I find the spot for it, whether it's here when I'm making the album or when I'm embellishing and adding photos, then I'll put it in. So I got out the stencils that we got, those Vicky Buden stencils, and I've got some black acrylic paint. I'm just using a makeup sponge, and I'm going to dab in this black acrylic paint to add these little, I think they're flowers, but I am just going to make a little flower cluster. So I'm going to put this one here They're either leaves or flowers. It depends on how you look at it, I guess. And then I'm going to use these big flower ones, stencils now, with some modelling paste through it. So I do end up putting a bit on this side and a bit on the other side. I use all three of the size of the flowers. I was going to say hearts. They're not hearts, obviously. So big one over there, and I'm just going to put these two smaller ones over here. I put this one down here, and watch. Did you see? I moved it in between, so the stencil was not very clean. So wipe it all off, and then I do it again, and you can barely tell. You can see a little, but I clean that up with a wipe, just to make it less obvious that I mucked around. And now I'm going to add some of the colour that we got. So these sprays are the Kaiser Crafts Shimmer Iridescent sprays. Got the pink one and this turquoise one. I did spray water first and then put the colour on top. And my pages do warp a little, but I do need to back them because one is the left hand side is packaging from stickers. So it's got nothing of, actually I think it's got the barcode or something on the back. And two, they've warped a little, so that's okay. So just using the wipe, and I'm pulling up some of the colour so that you can see the whiteness of the modelling paste, and then I'm adding some of these drippy drops. And we're going to call that mixed media page done. I actually don't do any more mixed media yet, but when I embellish it, I think I'll add some more. Hope you can't hear that rain. I brought a new microphone because obviously the other one was stuffing up. And it seems to be quite a good one, so hopefully it's not too disturbing. Maybe it's just disturbing because I just keep talking about it. So I'm going to add a ruffle of this lace here. Now this lace is labelled as a table runner in the cheap dollar shops, and I just chop it down to be the size I want, and I'm just adding it as a ruffle with some double-sided tape underneath it. Not very straight, obviously, but that's okay because that adds to the delight and the texture of it all. And I'm just sticking down this checkered black and white ribbon on top. It just adds some nice little pop of colour and interest to the page there. So what my aim at the moment is to, make sort of like making foundation pages, I guess. So I'm just adding some texture, adding some mixed media, adding some ribbon, some crepe paper, all that kind of goodness, and just having a play with it so that when I find the collection of photos that I want to use, I could just open it up and start going to town with the goodness. So here's the pom-pom trim that we got in the collection. Mine is an awesome yellow that goes so perfectly with the colours in the kit. And I'm just trying to work out exactly where it wants to go, or where I want it to go. I guess the pom-pom trim's not really telling me, is it? So just going to use my wet glue because I realised when I put that ribbon and that lace down that it's probably better with the wet glue. One, because it has a little bit of movement when you put it down, and two, you can't see it underneath the trim, and three, it's a better hold. So just holding that down for a little moment while it glues, making sure it's all glued properly. And then that's going to be that bit of texture. Next I've got that pink and red twine that we got in the kit. And I just realised I want to cut that down. I don't want to keep that branding strip. Actually, I wonder if I cut them all down and there's no branding strips I left in there. I can't remember now. Maybe there was. I think one by one they got eliminated. Just trying to, I thought I'd wrap this twine around something, and I thought maybe these smaller pieces might be nice. So I have a little play and I work it out. I do like it, but it wasn't like, yes, I have to have it that way. I like it. I would do it on different pages or something, but it just wasn't right for this little part. So instead I have a play with it. Push it all together. It looks much nicer together, although spread out like that it would be nice with a nice big embellishment over top or a label or something anyway. So it could work either way. I just didn't like it on there for whatever reason in the moment, and I take it off and then I realize exactly where it needs to go later on. So there's a lot of flipping back and forth with this project. You could certainly do it page by page, like you could set up these patterns, and that could be the way you want to do it, and then go in and embellish it page by page, and you add your texture and whatnot. But I find, one, it's pretty fun to do it this way, and then you give yourself a challenge of having a foundation page, because that's not something I'm used to. Even with my December Daily, I don't do foundation pages. I don't want to be, I know they're not stuck in you have to have it this way, but then I feel like I would never use the page as it was. So I don't understand, like, foundation pages for December Daily don't appeal to me. Like, I don't think it would work. But I figured this is a form of foundation pages with this mini album. And in fact, that I don't know what I'm going to use it for. It's at one, a challenge that I need to find a group of photos. And two, I'm basing the album really on the pattern paper. So it's like making your own little kit that's already in album form, that you just need to add some photos and embellishments. And because it came from the Kitaholics December kit, I already have the embellishments there ready to go that match it perfectly. And all I need to do is find some photos, and then I can get creative again. So I'm going to add some crepe paper, and I figured I've got so much going. Well, I don't have so much, but I know I'm going to have so much going down the side. I already have a few things, that this one will be nice along horizontally. Yeah, horizontally. So I'm just going to line them up and add a strip of crepe paper in a ruffled format across the whole width of the 2 pages. And I think this is a really nice way to start off a page. So you can see that there's lots of places to add photos and embellishments and treat each page. So my idea is, when you're doing a mini album, is each page, when you open the album, is a mini scrapbooking layout, or maybe not even mini, depending on how small your book is, your album. So it's really cool to just play and have that challenge of, okay, I'm going to open this album and this page has already got the crepe paper. So what do I want on it? So you can see it's so simple, easy to put on crepe paper. I'm just ruffling it, folding it really in one direction. I'm not concertining it or anything like that. So that's pretty. Look, it already looks pretty. I really like this album already without anything in it. And it's sort of that moment of, oh, what if I add stuff and I don't like it? So it's going to rip down the edge, and then I thought, what if I rip top and bottom? And then you'll be able to see that striped rainbow. Well, it's actually just the blue and the purples that I've cut, and that will match really pretty. And here's another pretty out there idea, or something new, or not out there, but it's new to me. So I'm folding the paper, just the normal white cardstock, and I'm just going to measure so that I get both sections, so that I can punch 2 holes into it. And I don't want it as wide as the rest of the pages, so I'm just roughly cutting, and I'm going to cut a heart. So just cutting it to make sure that it's as long as, like, as vertically as tall as those 2 sections for the holes. And you can see there, I'm going to cut it in half and going to punch the holes. And then when you get to this page, it's going to have like a mini page in the middle, and it's going to be heart shaped. I think that's really cute. Hopefully it works when I go to embellish it. And if it doesn't, then I can just pull the heart out, because it's ring bound, and it's not going to be an issue to undo the rings and pull out the heart. But I think it should work. And then I didn't want that white on that back there. And I was trying to work out if this went with the big hearts on one side, the little hearts on the other. Didn't like it. So instead, I remembered where it went, so I could put it back where I had it. Instead, I pull out the little hearts again. And even though the ombre is different tones, I think it goes really nicely together because it's the same pattern. You can't see, it's a bit of a subtle change to just have those little different coloured hearts. So just having to play with a bit more of my ribbon in my stash. There's this nice blue lace, royal blue, but I can't make it work. It looks nice there actually, even though that's orange and red and yellow and pink, and this would be nice too. But I was wondering if I was adding too much things like texture to the side, even though you probably never thought I would say something like there's too much texture. That's ridiculous. So just trying to work out exactly what I want and where I want it, even though even though I could still, when I go to add photos and embellishments, change it totally. It's ring bound. Even when it's like been together for a year, I could still change something or add something more to it. It wouldn't, it's not the end of the world. And actually the good thing is that the flexibility of the ring bound spine means that you can add to it when you want to add to it. I do actually have one of my Advent Advent gifts is a ring bound album, actually 2 of them, that are birthday themed. And because her girls are still growing up, obviously they're still young, it means that she can add to them for years to come until she's finished. She thinks that they're old enough and they don't want to have them, or she might forever until she stops scrapbooking, put a layout in every year of their birthdays. So the good thing is the ring bound, the only thing that would stop you from adding stuff is the size of the rings. But you could get bigger rings. These are pretty big rings actually on these albums that come from the Stamp Spot. So I'm just adding some ribbon there in a tab form on the side, and then the cut off I'm going to use my tiny attacher with 2 of them and stick it down just for a little bit of difference. Not so that you could use it to flip the page. It would obviously be strong enough with the tiny attacher, but you can use the book as normal and flip it as normal. So then I'm going to use some of that blue ribbon as an edge to this side little tiny piece. And that way, like when you can see now that it's already getting a bit chunky and texture filled, and it's just so nice to be able to flip through the pages. Not only is the paper so lovely from the Whimsical collection, these little bonuses like that heart and this ripped page and the ribbon and the twine and the lace and the crepe paper, it just makes it so interesting already. So you could definitely make this as a gift. I know by the time you're seeing this it's Christmas, but you might have one of those situations where you need to make something really quick, and you can make this without the acrylic front and back cover if you don't have access to that. But you can get those ring clips from newsagent is where I found mine, even though they come with the album when you purchase them. I brought some extras for other projects, and I just found them at the newsagents. So back when I was just showing you that mixed media pages that we were allowing to dry, it has gone through the back, of course, and I need to cover it with some white paper so that we can have some prettiness on the back. So adding some more ribbon, adding a big scalloped edge to this page now. And pretty much I'm getting to the end. If I add much more, like nearly every page has got something. I think every page probably does. But you can see how beautiful it looks at that side now. That middle spine is what I'm going to call it until I know otherwise. Now I'm just cutting down a folded piece of paper now. And then I rip it some more because I don't like how straight or how straight in inverted commas the rip is. So that's going to be a piece that's going to fold out, and I'm going to try and see if I keep it together as a folded page, whether it works in the ring clip or not. So just going through for my final flip through. And this is where I'm going to work out where this one goes. Oh, excuse me. It's a bit tired. Hopefully everyone's having a good Christmas day, seeing as it is Christmas, and that hopefully you are getting some time to relax. On Christmas Day I like to be able to sneak off, and we all have our time where we get to play with our toys and our presents, or just relax and wait for the dinner to cook. So that's where I'd be watching this kind of a new release video that come out today or the last couple of days. So I'm just going to put these all on the clip, show you how easy it is to do. I put the top one on, and then I go back and I put the bottom one on, and then that's my album together with my foundation pages, as we're going to call them. even though I say we've going to call them, but I've made the executive decision. But, you know, if you don't like them being called foundation pages, there's a comment box down below. Comment and let me know, and I'll comment back and we'll work out what to call it, shall we? So hopefully this has perked your interest and you want to come back and watch the next video, or probably both, and that it's piqued your mojo and you have gone to scrapbook your heart out. So here we go, just putting on, I haven't put on the top yet until I put all these together. So there we go. I'm going to put on the top. I don't know why I closed them, but you can see they're fairly easy to open. I'm going to close it up and add my mixed media pages, which are still not dry. Just going to leave it open overnight. And this is going to be the album. So I'll talk to you next time. Hopefully you're having a great day.